I'm a 25-year-old man, and my spouse is 27. We have been in a relationship for 8.5 years. We were legally wed 10 weeks ago and had our church ceremony 5 weeks ago. Our honeymoon commenced 2 weeks following the church wedding. It was during our honeymoon that I first noticed she was constantly on her phone, seemingly trying to conceal her activity. When I inquired, she attributed it to messaging friends or her sister, which aroused my suspicions. In the second week of our honeymoon, I looked through her phone while she was sleeping, something I had never done before because I had trust in her. However, I discovered she was having an affair with a 39-year-old cook from her workplace, someone she sees every day. I chose not to confront her about it during our honeymoon to avoid conflict. Upon further investigation, I learned that their affair began in late November of the previous year. This means it started after we got engaged but before we were married. I'm perplexed as to why she didn't come clean earlier when we still had the opportunity to call off the wedding. I have yet to discuss this with my wife, though I suspect she might be aware that I've uncovered something. We still have to select our wedding album photos and write thank you notes for our wedding presents. I've been holding off on bringing up the issue because of these pending tasks, but it's eating me up inside, and I feel compelled to act. I'm looking into whether I can legally have her move out of our jointly rented house, annul the marriage, or file for divorce. The rental agreement includes both of our names. An important piece of information is that the man she's involved with is currently separated from his wife and has 2 teenage children. He isn't pursuing a divorce at the moment due to shared financial obligations. They frequently express their love for each other and the desire to be together openly, but circumstances prevent them from doing so at present. It seems the plan is for her to have children with me first, and then, once he is ready, they will start a life together. I'm struggling with feelings of guilt over considering a divorce just 2 months after our wedding, especially since we had a large celebration and received many gifts. Nonetheless, I can't continue living like this. I'm not even sure what I'm seeking from this discussion. Perhaps just affirmation that leaving her and getting a divorce is the correct decision. I sought legal advice from a colleague who isn't well versed in this area, but she provided me with contact details for someone who might be able to assist. I'm planning to reach out to this person today or tomorrow and arrange a meeting as soon as possible. The lawyer is looking into whether having an affair is grounds for an annulment. She was sympathetic to my situation, as it was unusual for someone to seek legal advice so soon after getting married. She promised to update me on my options within a few days. I've learned that I can apply for an annulment within 6 months of the marriage. There's also the possibility of discussing the annulment of the church wedding with the priest. I have school exams coming up in the next 2 weeks, after which I intend to have a calm discussion with my wife about everything. However, I'm uncertain about how to initiate this conversation. Simply stating, "I know you're cheating on me," seems harsh. After speaking with our priest, I found out that he too can initiate an annulment process. But he advised that I should first talk to my wife and let her decide whether she wants to stay in the marriage. I'm hesitant to leave the decision up to her because I doubt I can ever trust her again. I'm at a loss for how to start this conversation, and while there's never an ideal time, I would welcome any advice on what to say or avoid saying. The priest suggested that I should focus on how hurt I am and the lack of authenticity in our marriage, rather than her wrongdoings. Instead of discussing forgiveness, I should talk about my readiness to support her. It's important for me to let her know that I'm aware of the affair but without going into all the details. Meeting with my lawyer first might be wise to understand the legal implications, especially regarding our shared house, before I bring this up with my wife. Since my last update, I've been contemplating whether to address the issue, proceed with a divorce, or seek an annulment, and I've discussed these options with a lawyer. The attorney brought up the option of seeking an annulment if it's within 6 months of getting married. However, since infidelity isn't directly cited as a reason for annulment in the statutes, there's no absolute certainty of success. In a less favorable scenario, I might consider getting a divorce. I also spoke with our priest, who indicated that the church would allow me to file for an annulment at any time, as long as I can demonstrate continuous infidelity before, throughout, and after the wedding. I possess all the proof necessary for this process. After discussing the matter with my friends, they suggested I immediately have her move out of my house. After collecting the needed information, I had a discussion with my wife 3 weeks ago, which was filled with tears, some shouting, and more talks over the next few days. We even took a weekend trip to discuss our issues without any interruptions. She was unable to justify her infidelity and admitted she hadn't mentioned it sooner due to fear of how I might react. To my surprise, she professed her continued love for me. I challenged her to choose between our marriage and her affair, and to decide what actions she would take to salvage our relationship. Depending on her choice, I would then decide whether to attempt to mend our marriage or not. At first, I was 90% leaning towards leaving her, and that sentiment should have escalated to 100% after a week. Since she failed to provide a definitive choice regarding me and the other individual, I made the choice for her. If she was unable to make a decision within the first 3 months of our marriage, then I was not prepared to commit my life to her. 2 weeks ago, we concluded that our relationship should end. Interestingly, she never once pleaded for me to reconsider. She appeared sorrowful about my leaving, but I suspect she was also content to continue her relationship with the other man. I broke the news to my parents and siblings last week, and while they were disheartened, they agreed it was the right move for me. She informed her parents on the same day, and they expelled her, leaving her to stay with friends. Now, she has found an apartment and is in the process of moving her things out of my house. In 10 days, I'll be meeting with the lawyer to initiate the annulment of our marriage. I need to inform the priest about her moving out and then proceed with the church annulment. At this juncture, I'm at a loss for words. My marriage didn't even last a quarter of a year, and it seemed my wife was almost eager to part ways with me. I see no further point in discussion. It will take some time to heal, but I'm slowly getting used to being on my own and taking care of the house. I appreciate your support. Now, I must begin anew, and hopefully, I'll eventually meet someone who truly loves me. I'm a 22-year-old woman living with my 26-year-old boyfriend, and I need to figure out how to tell him our relationship has ended. We've been a couple for over 4 years, sharing a home for nearly 3 of those years. He's intelligent, kind, and generally a great guy. Yet, despite these positive traits, we face serious problems. Firstly, our intimate life is unsatisfactory, with intimacy happening maybe once or twice a month, which has caused me to feel resentful. I've tried everything from spicing up our relationship, losing weight, to taking better care of myself. Even though I receive attention from others, my attempts have been futile, and after numerous discussions, it's clear we're not sexually compatible. Secondly, I've been the primary supporter in our relationship. We relocated across the country to be closer to his brother and to pursue education in a different place. I was the one who found us a place to live. We've moved homes twice, and each time, I managed everything from our budget to his paperwork. He needed certain documents for a scholarship, and I helped him secure a job, even paying for his subscription to a job-finding service, and supported us financially when he was unemployed. He's clueless about our bills and due dates, leaving me to deal with it all. While he started off ambitious and inquisitive, he now appears to have settled into a routine. Besides our lack of physical connection, we don't go out on dates or celebrate special occasions together. Gifts aren't important to me, yet I long for him to make an effort to create memorable moments, as I have done on numerous occasions. He attributes all problems to financial constraints, but we reside in a city bustling with tourists that offers complimentary public transportation, eliminating any excuses. His preference is to stay indoors and binge-watch Netflix. I must emphasize, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but our compatibility has waned. For more than a year, I've been considering ending our relationship, holding out for him to find stability in a job he's passionate about. Currently, I earn less than he does, but should we part ways, my family has the means to support me. He remains my foremost concern. From his perspective, our relationship is idyllic and joyful, yet I am engulfed in unhappiness. How do I convey to him that our relationship has reached its end? I've attempted to create distance between us, but he seems oblivious to the signs. Update. I engaged in a candid conversation with him, catching him off guard as he hadn't anticipated it. Despite his pleas for another opportunity, I had already resolved to leave. It required a few weeks to secure a new residence, and upon doing so, I departed with only my personal items. He retained possession of the apartment and its furnishings, a sacrifice I accepted in exchange for my liberation. After spending 7 months on my own, forging new friendships, discovering new locales, and encountering someone special, I've been in a relationship for nearly 3 months and have never felt more content. My former boyfriend and I maintain a cordial relationship, and he still sends me messages from time to time. He seems to be faring well. I am utterly exhausted. The fortnight spent traveling for the inauguration of a new international branch in London, coupled with extensive travel, has drained me. The most challenging aspect was the absence from my daughters, and the grueling 16-hour drive back home was particularly arduous. Even in the comfort of first class, the separation from my family is something I detest. This sentiment has always been present. Nonetheless, the lifestyle I've provided for my family has made my work life demanding. Due to a surge in demand, my energy company has grown its presence to 12 nations. 5 years prior, I acquired my partner Roger's share of the business. These last 5 years have been arduous yet rewarding. With a new president at the helm, I am prepared to diminish my involvement and savor the fruits of our success. While I will continue as CEO and owner, I eagerly anticipate sharing this joyous news with my daughters upon my return. The prospect of spending increased time with my family and friends, and resuming a regular schedule excites me. Don't misunderstand, the expansion of my company brings me joy, but at my core, my ambition has always been to witness my daughter's growth and to cherish time with my wife. At 45, I am grateful for the opportunity to step back and relish the outcome of my endeavors. My life has been fraught with stress, yet it has always been enveloped in love and warmth. I wouldn't alter a single aspect and eagerly await the next phase of life with my family. Merely 30 minutes from home, as my chauffeur maneuvered through congested roads, I found solace in the backseat of the limousine, unwinding and enjoying a second glass of bourbon from the sidebar post-departure from the airport. As we approached the circular driveway, the house appeared silent, but I knew from experience that within moments, my daughters would rush to greet their father and my wife would receive me with a tender kiss, heralding a delightful evening in her embrace. To my dismay, I entered a deserted home. The sole noise was that of the chauffeur depositing my luggage in the foyer. My calls went unanswered, an oddity given that the girls were typically home upon my return. Clinging to hope that all was well, my attention was drawn to an envelope bearing my name, penned in my wife Zoe's exquisite script. Jonathan, my beloved, our journey as husband and wife has been nothing short of remarkable. I have treasured every moment of our 16-year union and eagerly anticipate decades more together. You are my entire universe, and living without you is unfathomable. Despite the ache of your absence, I have patiently awaited the chance to express my appreciation and disclose something of significance. There is another matter that I feel compelled to reveal. This issue has been troubling me for the past 6 months. It is a situation I never foresaw, and regrettably, it has become a significant aspect of my life. Every word you have just read is the absolute truth, and it comes sincerely from my heart. What I'm about to disclose is the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. Despite my enduring love for you, which will never fade, I must admit something. I hope you can understand and not lose faith in me, nor abandon me because of this revelation. For the past 6 months, there has been another man in my life. I harbor no emotional attachment or love for him, yet our relationship is a negative one. I am sharing this with you now out of respect and an overwhelming feeling of remorse. The burden of this guilt is too much to bear, and it's essential for you to know about my infidelity. You might not comprehend it, but I do not love him. It's merely an inexplicable attraction. He affects me in ways that are indescribable, and despite my efforts, I am unable to resist him. He has become an addiction to me, and I feel that I need him in my life. Please trust that I have tried my utmost to conceal this from you and prevent it from impacting our relationship. Since this began, nothing in our relationship has altered, but I realize it cannot continue indefinitely, so it's only right that you are informed. No secrets, my love. I cherish and respect you too deeply to ever keep this from you. Please know that my desire for him is strictly physical, and I refuse to let it affect the love and intimacy we share. I needed to confess that I've shared a part of myself with someone else, but this does not diminish my love for you or the value of our family. Family is the cornerstone of my existence and my highest priority. That will never change. The girls are spending the night at your mother's, so there's no need to worry about them, and they're excited to see their father in the morning. I'm staying with a friend tonight to give you space to process my letter and decide on our future. I'll return home around 10 p.m., and we can continue as normal, as if nothing has been altered, because in truth, nothing has. My dear, as you read this, remember that you are the love of my life, and I am forever yours until death parts us. I am completely yours, my love, and I am here to fulfill your every want and need. Thank you for being the person you are and for being the most wonderful husband a woman could ever wish for. With love eternal, your devoted wife, Zoe. After reading the letter, I realized that the bourbon I had been sipping was now splattered against the adjacent wall. I had no recollection of hurling the glass, much less with such force that shards of it were embedded in the wall. My knack for making swift decisions has brought me success in my career, and now I found myself reacting instinctively. I wrote a response, sealed it in an envelope with her name clearly marked, and placed it beside the one addressed to me. I pocketed her letter, grabbed some luggage, and went to pack a few days' worth of clothes for the girls in their room. Since we had a brief road trip ahead, I phoned my supervisor to arrange for a corporate jet to take us to San Francisco, where I planned to stay with my daughters for the foreseeable future. That evening at 6:30, I was en route to my parents' house to collect my girls. I always keep spare clothes and necessities for an extended stay in a corporate apartment near my office in California. Upon my arrival, the girls rushed out, their faces beaming with joy, showering me with kisses. Their happiness was evident, and it brought me my first genuine smile since I had arrived home. "Daddy's back. We missed you, Daddy. We didn't think we'd see you until tomorrow. Mom said you'd be back then. She was going to meet her friend Jamie tonight, and we were excited to visit Grandma and Grandpa." As I embraced and kissed them, tears welled up from the love I felt and the realization that their lives were about to change due to their mother's actions. The mention of Jamie's name piqued my interest, and I made a mental note of it for later consideration. Once the girls had settled down, I caught them off guard by announcing that we were embarking on a short trip, flying on the company's aircraft for an enjoyable holiday. It was simple to persuade the girls, yet discussing it with Mom and Dad proved to be quite the tale. They shared in my anguish and resisted until I allowed them to peruse the letter. I clarified that I required a period of solitude to contemplate and strategize without being swayed by emotions. I left a note for Zoya and made a commitment to phone her from the aircraft. I gave them my word that I would return in less than 2 weeks and assured them not to fret over the girls, as they would be in good hands. As we boarded the aircraft, the girls were frolicking, and Jessica, a congenial flight attendant, was there to keep them entertained. Over the last 2 years, we've developed a strong friendship. Friendships can blossom when you're alone on flights. It was 11 at night, and the girls had fallen asleep, with the dimmed cabin lights fostering a serene environment. That's when I placed a call to Zoe. I updated her on my whereabouts and warned her about the possible difficulties in communication due to the high altitude. I comforted Zoe by confirming that I had received and read her letter, noted that the girls were with me, and would get in touch with her the following morning. I vowed to contact her within the next few days and suggested she reach out to my parents should she require assistance. As our call ended, I wished her a peaceful night and disconnected before she could reply. The flight concluded without a hitch, touching down at 1 in the morning. I escorted the girls to a limousine that was waiting and subsequently headed to my residence. After tucking them into bed, I drifted off to sleep without bothering to unpack, knowing there would be time for that later. Jennifer, 13, and Cassie, 15, gazed at me with curiosity following the phone call. Cassie, the older of the two, wore a look of sorrow and questioned whether Mom had been unfaithful to me, a query that shattered my heart. Struggling to hold back my tears, I shook my head and told them to prepare for dinner. It was the most difficult task I've ever faced, but I was confident that with love and support, they would manage the challenges ahead. Earlier that day, before the girls awoke, I had a conversation with George, our family attorney on the East Coast, whom I've known for 2 decades, and I relayed the situation to him without any formalities. I sought to comprehend what a divorce would entail and the potential complexities involved. I declared my intention to fight for custody at any cost and made it clear that there would be no chance of reconciliation, therapy, or forgiveness. I was determined to finalize everything as swiftly as possible. The line went quiet as he took a moment to process the information, likely as astonished as I was upon discovering Zoe's letter. He offered his sympathies, recalling how he and Kate had always seen us as the ideal couple and struggled to understand how she could do such a thing. However, he grasped what I was requesting. He reminded me of the prenuptial agreement that Roger had insisted on when we founded the company, drawing from Roger's own experiences with disloyalty in his past venture. He detailed that the prenup was valid and in effect, and if Zoe had indeed been unfaithful, she would forfeit her rights to the children and any financial gains from the marriage. Over the years, as the company flourished, he had kept a premarital relationship, collaborated with our corporate attorneys, and secured most of our assets in a trust. I was the trust's beneficiary, with the house, cars, bank accounts, and investments all protected within this inviolable trust. If she violated the marital agreement, she would depart with only what she brought into the marriage and lose custody rights. While this arrangement wasn't made for such a scenario, it appeared to be advantageous for me. George, it never crossed my mind that she would be unfaithful. I had completely forgotten about the prenup, but now all I possess is a letter admitting her infidelity. What more do we need? Well, a recorded confession or video, alongside photographs or an admission from her accomplice, would be beneficial. George, can you manage this while I'm away in California with the girls? Money is not an issue, and I want evidence as soon as it's feasible. I don't wish for this to be prolonged. There's a man the girls have mentioned, Jamie. The only Jamie I'm familiar with is the tennis coach at our country club. Could you organize a private detective to begin with him? I am confident she will reach out to him during my absence. Jamie, the tennis coach, was undoubtedly my arch nemesis. Their negligence simplified the task for the investigative agency. They installed a tracking device on Zoya's vehicle, placed audio bugs inside, and set up video surveillance in our residence with my approval. All the gathered evidence was admissible since my business managed it via a trust arrangement. Within 7 days, they had secured sufficient audiovisual proof and her own written admission to proceed. I refrained from listening to or viewing any of it. I did not want those visuals to torment me. Jamie was revealed to be a philanderer, engaging in relationships with other men's wives. He was younger, in good shape, and quite popular with the female members of the club. Zoya was merely one among his numerous liaisons at the club. He found it easy to charm middle-aged married women. George contacted me after 5 days to provide an update. "Jonathan, we've got all the proof we need. What's your next step? Are you still set on divorcing Zoya?" Without any doubt, I instructed him to prepare the divorce documents with great care. I desired for her to experience the anguish she inflicted upon me. I planned to be at the house to witness her reaction when she received the notice on Tuesday. "Are you certain about ending your marriage, Jonathan?" he asked. "Absolutely, as we're discussing it right now. However, I need to consider our daughters and have a discussion with her before finalizing the divorce papers. It's a difficult situation, George, and I hope you never have to go through it. I still love her, but I cannot overlook her actions." George assured me, "Whatever you decide, I'm here to support you, Jonathan. Keep in contact, and we'll update you once she's been informed." We arrived back home on Tuesday morning at about 9 a.m., and the girls were delighted to return. I told them that they should stay in their rooms after their mother completed her tennis session because we needed to have a conversation. They appeared distressed and concerned, but I did my utmost to reassure them that everything would be all right. Half a year later, the divorce was finalized. Although Zoe remained the mother of our daughters, I paid for the first 3 months of a modest, furnished 2-bedroom apartment close to our home and the club. I also purchased a 3-year-old Toyota Sangha for her transportation needs. I was aware that these gestures were not obligatory, but I wanted my children to have the freedom to visit their mother as they wished. The days of luxury cars and an opulent lifestyle were over for her. She had sacrificed it all for a fleeting affair with a tennis player she would no longer see. Despite everything, I assisted her in securing a position at the country club. Once I withdrew the lawsuit, they consented to dismiss Jamie and offered Zoe a job opportunity. She was no longer a prestigious member of the country club but now worked there as a waitress, struggling to get by. It must have been a demoralizing experience for her to transition from a celebrated club member to a server. Jamie abandoned Zoe as soon as the legal proceedings began, leaving her isolated. The girls told me that their mother wept nightly over the love and lifestyle she had relinquished for her selfish pursuits. It took these events for her to acknowledge her errors and realize how senseless it was to expect me to condone her selfishness. I was saddened by the outcome and expressed to the girls that I still had love for their mother, urging them to also love and pardon her. They maintained a close relationship, visiting her on weekends. Later in the year, during one of her visits to collect the girls, we engaged in our first amicable dialogue. She confessed her wrongdoings and sought forgiveness. "Jonathan, I'm aware we won't reunite, and you'll never trust me again, but I need to apologize and plead for your forgiveness. I now comprehend the pain I've caused. I used to be self-indulgent and inconsiderate of others' feelings. I felt entitled and failed to think about your emotions. Now, I recognize my faults and the extent of the hurt I've inflicted on you. If it were possible to reverse everything, I would do it instantly. Losing you was the most devastating event of my life. The absence of your love is so painful that it's unbearable. I've grown over the past year, and looking back, I can hardly believe how naive I was. I'm sorry for destroying everything.